Today, I'm going to show you this impressive piece of gear from Bluetti. It's their 2000 watt power station, and I'm going to show you their solar panel kit that goes with it as well. Now, before we jump into the power station specifics and whether it's good for preparing, you might be asking, what the heck is a power station anyway? Because these units are still relatively new and many people are confused about what they do and how they work. In simple terms, a power station is a large portable battery with an intuitive user interface. Basically, it's a large battery with a lot of inputs and outputs. All these power inputs and outputs make it sort of a smart battery, which can be used to power lots of different household items or camping appliances. For example, it can power a refrigerator, a small freezer, entertainment systems, microwaves, small ovens, computers, heated blankets, CPAP machines, etc. You get the idea. Yes, this unit can run a full-size refrigerator for several hours, or even longer if you've got it hooked up to solar panels. I did it. I tested it. It does work. So now that you have a better idea of what a power station is and its potential, let's go over the main functions and features of this Bluetti power station. So this unit has 5 different charging methods. The first and most straightforward method is to use a 3-pronged electrical cord and the power supply to go from your wall straight to this unit. The second way to charge this unit is to use a series of solar panels out in the sun. You hook the solar panels up in a series and you feed that into this smart battery and you've turned it into a solar generator. So yes, you'll definitely want to pair solar panels with this if possible. Another way to power your Bluetti power station is through a running vehicle. This is done via the 12-volt outlet, or what some people call your cigarette lighter in your car. The next method to charge this power station is using a fuel-based generator. Basically, it's similar to the wall plug hookup, only instead of plugging into the wall, you're plugging into your generator while it's running. And finally, you can hook up the power station off a lead-acid battery. You just connect the positive and negative poles off the battery to then feed that energy into your power station. So as you can see, there are many ways to keep your Bluetti power station ready to go for an emergency or for a quick escape outdoors for camping. Okay, let's move on to the power out options. First of all, this power station has one 12-volt 10 amp DC out. It's got a 12-volt 25 amp DC out. It's got 2 12-volt 3 amp outputs. It's got 2 Type-C 60-watt outs. It's got 4 5-volt 10 amp USB ports. And it's got 6 typical AC out, either 100 or 120 volt. 6 of those. That's your typical plugins for most appliances right there. So I primarily use the typical AC output plugs, and there's 6 of those. They provide 6 because that's the output you'll use most often for small electronic devices or your appliances. We're talking refrigerators, smartphones, computers, CPAP machines, etc. The power station is also able to provide 12-volt output power. This is a great option when you want to charge your pop-up or RV's deep cycle marine battery. I had to buy a special adapter that went from this DC port, and then it comes out into 2 alligator clips that you then plug onto the ends of the deep cycle marine battery's posts. And you just turn the power station on, and it's that easy. It starts charging the deep cycle marine battery back up. You can also use that same method to charge a dead car battery as well. Now that you have a good overview of this power station, here's the real question. Should you get one? So there are 2 main reasons to get the Bluetti power station. First of all, it can be used as an emergency backup when the grid power is down, or it can be a very nice camping accessory. Let's go over the Bluetti as a home emergency backup system first, and then we'll go over the use as an off-grid camping system. As an emergency backup power supply, the Bluetti will help you get through shorter-term emergencies with some extra luxuries. However, for most people, it won't be enough to fully replace your full-blown home generator. To give you an idea of what this power station can do, here's a chart I found. It provides some estimates of typical run times for different devices. My own test results for some of these devices were right in line with the numbers on this chart, so I feel like they are fairly good approximations for all the devices listed. Now, before you get too excited, remember these approximate run times are if you're running that single device only. If you start powering multiple devices at once, let's say your refrigerator, your television, your laptop, and a microwave all at the same time, well, first of all, that's really poor power management in a crisis, so shame on you. But you're also going to run through all the available battery power fast. And with that said, this unit is perfect to provide power for smaller electronic devices with ease, such as smartphones, tablets, computers, video game consoles, TVs, for quite some time. And since you can recharge the power station with solar panels, you're never fully out of options for long. If you use all of your power up, sure, you're now at the mercy of the sun, but that's better than nothing. And if you're smart with your energy use, there could be enough power to support several smaller electronic devices perpetually. So while the Bluetti Power Station is a very nice addition for the whole house power backup system, it's not quite ready to replace the traditional whole house generator. Unless, of course, you have very low power needs. But in a real crisis, if you forget everything except your refrigerator and one smartphone during critical emergencies, and you keep your solar panels out and pointed to the sun whenever available, you can probably keep your food from spoiling and your phone operational for an extended period of time. So again, with wise power management, this unit can really help provide some much needed power during a multi-day power outage. Now, before we move on, there's one aspect of this power station that's worth noting for preparedness. A power station provides clean, quiet power. I want to let that sink in for just one moment. With a fuel-based generator, there's no way to run it without everyone in the neighborhood hearing it. Sure, there's always a way to muffler a camping generator, or there's a way to try to run it quieter. But in my opinion, this power station's superpower is that it almost produces zero noise. Now, to be honest, it's not completely silent. It does have a cooling fan that kicks on from time to time, but it's not really louder than a laptop cooling fan. So compared to a fuel-based generator, it's pretty much silent. It also doesn't produce any toxic fumes, so you can keep this unit inside your home when you're using it. This ability allows you to power your critical appliance without nosy neighbors even knowing about it. So if you're at all concerned about your neighbors trying to mooch or steal off you during a crisis because, hey, you have the luxury of power and they don't, then this unit provides that sort of stealth. Let's now take a look at where the Bluetti really shines, off-grid camping. I recently took this unit with me on a camping trip to the Sand Dune National Parks near Alamosa, Colorado. Side note, if you ever get a chance to go there, do it. It's incredible. It's stunning. And we went the first week of April, so I was banking on the power station to keep my family and I warm and comfortable in the chilly overnight temps. For example, the first night the temperatures briefly dropped down into the 20s. Fortunately, the pop-up camper we rented had a small propane heater and heated mattresses. But the location we camped at, Zapata Falls Campground, has no power whatsoever. So in order to run the furnace and the heated mattress, we had to rely on the deep cycle marine battery and this Bluetti power station. One thing to note, it's not possible to run the heated mattress off the marine battery. It's just the way the pop-up camper's electrical system is set up, so in order to take advantage of the heated mattresses, power station was our only option. The great news is, the Bluetti power station was perfect for such a task. All 3 nights I was able to run both heated mattresses, the one my wife and I slept on and the one the kids slept on, and it helped keep everyone nice and toasty even though the outside temperatures were frigid. And after this experience with cold weather camping, I'm confident we could have enjoyed camping in temperatures that dipped down into the teens. This is a big deal to me because I hate crowded campgrounds. So to me, the Bluetti power station significantly opens up shoulder season camping, which is much less crowded. So with this power station, I can now go camping nearly any time of the year as long as we avoid blizzards or deep freeze winter temps. Now, not only was the Bluetti power station up to the challenge of running heated mattresses, but as long as I took advantage of recharging every day, I could keep our small electronic devices powered up as well. And we were able to cook some delicious cinnamon rolls on our small toaster, and even one morning we made pizza pockets one evening. So I want to go over some specific setups and uses and what I figured out while I was on my camping trip. I showed up at the campsite with the power station at 100%, which equates to 2,000 watt hours. The first time I set the solar panels up for camping, I set them out in an open area and tipped the angle to capture as much sun as possible. While this did an alright job of recharging the power station, I was also slightly disappointed at how much progress it made over 2 hours. For example, when I hooked up the power station to the solar panels for the first time, it was down to about 33% capacity or 660 watts. Obviously, heading in towards the evening, I was concerned I might not have enough power to get through the chilly night with the heated mattresses. By the end of the 2 hours, it only charged up to about 57% or 1400 watts. At this rate, about 240 watts per hour, I'd need to have the solar panel set up for nearly 5.5 hours in order to get back to 100%. And like I said, the sun was going down, so my rate was getting less and less every moment. The other downside with this setup is it took several minutes of work to actually set up the solar panels. While it's not hard work per se, it is a bit of a hassle after a long day of hiking. Plus, we had to get the fire started and get dinner ready and keep the dog and the kids happy and on and on. So the setup and tear down of the solar panels quickly became a bit of a pain point. Not to mention having to lug the 60-pound power station between the camper and the solar panels each time I wanted to charge. Again, it's not that big of a deal, but it could be for someone who's older or not as strong. I'd much prefer to leave the power station in the camper itself, but my cords were not quite long enough to do that and get full sun. Another issue with this solar panel setup is it did attract quite a bit of attention. Everyone who drove by saw them, and 2 people decided to stop by and ask a bunch of questions. Now, if you're looking to meet people at your campground, this is a great way to do that. However, most folks also understand that a solar setup like this isn't cheap, so now you got to worry about an opportunistic thief snagging your gear when you're away from your campground. So after 2 days of these minor problems, I got smart and I made some strategic adjustments to my recharging setup. I decided to try putting my solar panels flat on top of the pop-up trailer and to run the charging cable from the roof through the Velcro side of the camper and down into the power station. This setup helped me avoid moving the cumbersome 60-pound power station unit any more than necessary. And it also kept the power station out of the sun, which is recommended to keep the unit cool. As with all electronics, overheating can result in premature failure and longevity issues. I was obviously interested in the security of such a setup because if I put the solar panels on the roof, it'd become even more of a hassle to put them up and take them down each time I wanted to recharge the power station. The great news is, once I laid the panels on the flat roof, I couldn't even tell they were up there. I looked from all angles of the campground, anywhere a camper was visible, to see how obvious it was to anybody passing by that I had expensive solar panels up on top. So once everything was set up, the only thing that was visible was the tiny cord coming off the roof and into the side of the pop-up. This cord was facing away from the road. So with this new setup, I was confident enough in the security to leave the solar panels and power station in a charging setup while my family and I went on a short hike up to the Sabata Falls. It was about a half mile each way. I was gone for about an hour and a half total. So I was able to charge pretty much all day with this setup, and with the solar panels pointed straight up, which helped to maximize charging during the bright lunch hour. So how did this setup do? When I left for our hike, the Bluetti Power Station was down to about 34% or 480 watts. And when I got back an hour and a half later, it was roughly 55% or 1100 watts. But that was when things got really interesting. We were just entering the best part of the day as far as solar panel production goes, and from 11:30 to about 2:30 p.m., the power station went from 55% up to 100%, or 900 watts in about 3 hours. Now that's an impressive 300 watt per hour. I was pleasantly surprised by this rate, and I was glad to have the power station back up to 100% well before the evening time. This felt way better than limping into the evening with only a half-full power station. Now I was charging all my devices and appliances, plus recharging the power station without having to move the unit or the solar panels around at all. It was in a permanent location that was hidden away from prying eyes and creating no noise or toxic fumes. If these features are important to you, clean, quiet, hidden power, and you love camping, then this Bluetti Power Station is a big winner. Now, I also tested charging the power station using our Jeep Cherokee's battery while driving to and from the sand dunes. I was excited to test this out as I felt like this could be a significant win and a main way to keep the power station at full battery on an extended trip. Plus, I like the idea of taking the expensive power station with me on our adventures away from the campground for security purposes. However, I was slightly disappointed at the amount of power I was able to generate this way. During my test, I was only driving for a total of an hour or so, but it also gave me about 10% bump in power. That's about 200 watts per hour, meaning it would take about 10 hours of driving to go from 0 back up to 100. Now, I like that it's another way to keep the power station charged up during longer travel days. So after all my uses and testing, where are my overall thoughts on the Bluetti Power Station and the solar panel kit? I was pretty impressed. I didn't expect to be able to power my large refrigerator, yet it did, and it did so for 8 or 10 hours. Now, I live in Colorado, so we get a lot of sunny days here. So I'd rarely be 100% out of power at any given time during a power outage. And when the sun is shining, I could probably power the refrigerator and several smaller devices here and there as well. Plus, this device significantly extends my camping season and keeps me warm and toasty even in bitter overnight temps. And I feel like that's where the power station like this separates itself from a camping generator. You get most of the pros of a fuel-based generator without all the cons. You get ample amounts of quiet, clean, hidden, flexible power distribution for emergencies and camping. And as a prepared survivalist who loves outdoor adventures, the Bluetti Power Station not only provides some peace of mind for a power outage, it also provides a better camping experience. And I love prepping gear that functions as a wise backup and as a helpful tool I use regularly. So instead of an investment just sitting around in my basement just in case, I'm actually putting it to good use often, and I own it just in case as well. So if you want to make your camping life even better, and you want a bit of peace of mind should the power grid go down, then this Bluetti Power Station is a great investment for you.